Welcome in. Welcome in.
Or should we say welcome back? Because it has been.
Welcome back. Yeah, we took a little bit of a hiatus here. John, it's nice to talk to you again.
Always, dude. Always love talking football.
Well, before we do that, you had a pretty good week, right? You got to see the family for the first time in a little while after, because of the pandemic. Obviously, some things that throws a wrench in some situations.
Yeah,
so.
the last time I saw my family was February 2020.
Okay.
And
yep.
Yeah, it was good to see the fam. Good to see the fam always.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm happy you were able to do that. So, took a bit of a hiatus, but we're back now. And the offseason is well underway. We got free agency coming up in a couple of weeks, but we're going to shift gears a little bit.
Well, if you listen to our last pod, we did a deep dive into the Seattle backfield. And we spoke a lot about Rashad Penny and him and what his effectiveness is going to be coming back from that terrible ACL injury that he had in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And it just got me on this rabbit hole of players returning from ACL tears.
You did a deep
dive. And we've heard for a long time, Nick, that ACL tears ain't what they used to be.
Yeah, for the past couple of years, it's like, medical advancements have made the recovery better. The ACL injury is not as damning for a player as it used to be. That's the kind of current mantra on ACL tears. Your season is still over if you suffer one while the season is going on. But yeah, the new mantra recently has been that it's not the career-ending injury that it used to be.
Right, and we have a few notable players that are coming back from ACL tears that they suffered in either 2019, a la Rashad Penny, or 2020. We got Saquon Barkley, suffered an injury week 2. Tariq Cohen suffered an injury week 3. And then Odell Beckham Jr., week 7, and Cortland Sutton week 2.
Some big players.
So those are some pretty big names.
Yeah, some prominent fantasy players.
So I'm basically just going to spit out some facts that I've compiled going back to 2013, because that's when I really started to hear that narrative about ACL tears not being as tough to come back from. So I just did a deep dive since 2013.
Felt like doing some
ACL
homework.
Tears, and did some homework.
All right. We're productive over here.
Sometimes.
When we want to be. All right, so what do you got?
You used the P word. All right, productivity.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Since 2013, there have been 77 ACL tears to wide receivers and running backs. 33 of the 77 players that suffered an ACL tear since 2013 never played another snap.
Cool.
There were 51 wide receiver ACL tears and 26 running back ACL tears. And 11 of the 26 running backs never played another snap, which is good for 42%.
It's almost half.
And 22 of the 51 wide receiver ACL tears, or the players that got them, never played another snap. And that's 43%.
That's almost, you're talking about almost 50% for both positions. Damn.
Right, and it was weird to me that I would have thought running backs would have been more susceptible to this kind of injury, but it's actually wide receivers by 1%. I know it's not a ton.
The number.
But yeah, we're looking at the data here.
I guess the first question is, is it their first injury? Is it their first major injury? Were they a player that was on the bubble as far as the roster is concerned? I said the first question. Right. I just asked like 6, but.
Or were they rookies?
Sure.
A lot of some of these players were rookies.
Or were they older and at the end of their career and that was the end of it? Or, there's a lot of different variables here.
Yeah, we had players like Reggie Wayne get a ACL tear in his second to last year, which has kind of skewed the data and stuff like that. But for the most part, and let's dig into the wide receivers first here. So we're looking at Odell Beckham and Cortland Sutton and seeing how this data will affect how you draft them coming into the 2021 season. Now, as far as return to form percentages, 7 of the 77 players in this subset of data hit either wide receiver 2 or running back 2 numbers or greater in their first season back from injury. So only 9% of players that got the ACL injury came back and performed at a level that you would want to have them on your fantasy team the next season.
Something, as far as performance goes, relative to the expectation based on the name.
Right, and some of the names in here, we're going to go over them. There were 5 wide receivers and 2 running backs. It's Cooper Kupp, Keenan Allen, Allen Robinson, Jordy Nelson, and Jeremy Maclin for the wide receivers.
Okay.
And then Adrian Peterson and Jamal Charles for the running backs. So these are the guys that came back the year after their ACL tear and performed well as a wide receiver 2 or a running back 2 were guys that are considered elite.
High-end talents, yeah, for sure.
Right. And we're not seeing any super old players here. I just think that's kind of stark. Only 9% of players came back the year after their injury and performed to a level that you would want to have them on your fantasy team.
Yeah. Ugh. That hurts. Because in a lot of these scenarios, you often see the ADP of these players plummet and your eyes get big. It's like, ooh, this is a buy low opportunity. But maybe there's a reason that those players' ADPs are where they're at.
Right, unless they're pretty much elite at the wide receiver position or generationally elite at the running back position, you should be fading them.
Yeah, it's tough. You're always looking for value, right? You're always looking for, how do I make the most of this pick in this round, whether it's the first or the last? And so oftentimes you see guys coming back from injury. Naturally, their ADP is down. It's lower than what you expect for that type of player if they were to come off a healthy season. And you look at that as an investment opportunity, right? Because, this guy, Odell Beckham, can easily smash a 7th round ADP, right? He's been a first or second round pick for most of his career since his second season. So you can definitely get great return on investment by drafting him in the 7th round, or even if you wanted to reach in the 6th round just to get him, right? This is the mindset that a lot of players, fantasy players, get in when they look at their draft board.
You've seen me draft. I have that. I've had that mindset a few times.
Sure, we all do. We all see players that we like the name. We know what they can do. We've seen them perform. We've seen the production, but they suffer an injury, and then the next year their stock falls. And like I said, a lot of fantasy players look at that as an opportunity to potentially capitalize on a guy who you would think can outperform a relatively low ADP, depending on who you're talking about. So maybe that's not the case.
So bringing that back to 2021, how confident are you that Courtland Sutton and or Odell Beckham will be able to come in and post wide receiver 2 numbers and be part of this 7 out of 77 club?
Just based on the, that 43% number, I guess I'm inclined to believe that, one of the 2 of them should be fine. And if I had to put my money on either one of them, I think it would be Sutton. Sutton, in theory, should slot right back into the number 1 role in that offense. I know Jerry Jeudy is ascending and a talent, but Sutton has proven himself so far. So his ADP right now is around 65. That's still a gamble I would be willing to take. 6th round ADP for a guy who has performed as a wide receiver 2 or better already. That's a pretty good gamble to take. I guess I would say...
And he's younger. He's 25.
That's
and
another thing.
Odell's going into his age 29 season.
That's a huge... Okay, so yeah, that's... I guess that's a huge difference in how I feel about these guys. Obviously, you feel a little bit better about the younger, fresher, less wear and tear on the body player returning from an injury like this, especially because Sutton went down earlier, right? An early season injury is often
5 weeks earlier.
Yeah, yep. You feel better about their chances of being healthy week 1. Now, Odell went down 4 or 5 weeks later, so you're not talking about a significant amount of time, but yeah, when you couple in the age and the wear and tear, and then there's a little bit more uncertainty about Odell's future. Yeah, I would say if I had to gamble on one of the two, Sutton's ADP is around 65. Odell is maybe around 75 is his ADP. So I know that's going to make some people's eyes get big, but I would say I feel better about Sutton returning to form than I do Odell.
Yeah, I'd have to say that I agree with you there. And while I do believe Odell at least used to be, and maybe it's a function of the offense that he's been playing in for the past 2 years, used to be considered elite.
Right.
Just like a lot of the guys that were outliers in this data set of information. So while I could see Odell Beckham be one of those guys, you have to take into the account that he may or may not be playing with the same quarterback. And he's playing on a team that doesn't maximize him.
Right.
It's a run-first team.
Right.
And even then, when Baker Mayfield's good, he spreads the ball around.
Yep.
So, yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you on both counts. I would be taking a hard look at Courtland Sutton because I do think he's going to be undervalued. I do. Let's move on to these running backs here.
Okay.
Because running backs, they're a completely different story.
Yeah, this is a different breed entirely.
The two running backs who are outliers in the stats that I was talking about before, I mean, AP came back in a year and got to 2,000 yards. And he's still playing at age 35. So, outlier.
He's an outlier in general, just as,
right.
You know, regardless of this conversation, he's an outlier in general. He's one of the greatest running backs of all time.
Now, I do want to talk a little bit about Jamal Charles because I think if he didn't get injured, he got 2 ACL tears.
Oh, that's
He was
right,
averaging 6.4 yards per carry.
Yeah, he was
the
amazing.
year before the injury. And the year of the injury, he was averaging 6.9. That's crazy.
Almost
That's
7
crazy.
yards a touch.
6.9.
That's outrageous. He was unbelievable, man. He is one of the most elusive players I've ever seen.
And a lot of the years of production there were after the first ACL injury, and he never hit above 5.3 yards per carry again. So it's kind of crazy to think, what if he hadn't sustained that first ACL tear? I think he'd be all-time great. We're not just talking all-decade team. We're talking all-time team.
Yeah, he would have been up there. But this is what these injuries do. They hinder your production, and with running backs, it's much dicier. Because they already have a shelf life that is smaller than most other positions. And you go down to an injury that oftentimes can be, while it's not career ending, it can be career changing. It's significantly harder for the running backs.
Yeah, so just looking into the data on Jamal Charles, it seemed like he was superhuman to begin with.
Oh, he was.
And then that first ACL tear brought him down to okay. One of the better humans.
Okay, he's human.
In terms of athleticism.
He's still a baller, but he is human.
Right. 5.3 yards per carry is nothing to sneeze at.
Oh hum.
And he's the NFL's all-time leader in career yards per carry with 5.38. So, all-time baller. 5.3, nothing to sneeze at. But he was a full yard ahead of that before the first injury. And after that second ACL tear, he never had more than 364 yards ever again. So we're talking about a guy who was knocked down a peg, became human, and then got the ACL tear again, and basically was never effective fantasy-wise ever again. So I don't know how much you can attribute that data on Jamal Charles to the running backs that we're talking about, the Saquon, Tariq, Rashad Penny group. But I wanted to get into this next group, which I think tells a little bit more of a tale. This is everybody else. Everybody else who got an ACL tear and what that did to their overall effectiveness the years after. So we got Bishop Sankey. After his ACL tear, never played another snap. Jeremy Hill, after his ACL tear, never played another snap. Lamar Miller, only appeared in one game since his ACL tear. Darius Geis was re-injured the following year after the tear, and now he's out of the league due to off-field concerns. Geo Bernard, and this is, I feel like, it gets a little interesting with these next four players I'm going to bring up, and that's Geo Bernard, Jerick McKinnon, Darren Sproles, and JJ.
Okay.
Because Geo Bernard was a high second-round pick. He averaged 701 yards in his first 3 seasons before the injury, and then averaged 333 yards in the 4 seasons since.
Pretty steep.
Jerick McKinnon, he was averaging 500 plus yards prior to his ACL injury, missed 2 full seasons, and then in his return had 219, and just could not stay healthy. Darren Sproles, this is a little bit of an outlier because he was older. He tore his ACL in 2017 and never played more than 6 games again, and then retired in 2019. A little bit of an outlier there just because he was older, and he wasn't your average running back. He was kind of a do-it-all guy.
Right.
But then the last guy, Jay, was a hot name in running back circles for a few years there. And since his ACL tear, he's only played in 3 games since, and he wasn't effective at all.
No, the burst was gone. You could tell.
So, looking at those guys and what happened to them after their ACL tears, I can kind of confidently say Tariq Cohen, small, shifty guy, relies on his speed.
Yep.
I feel like the career trajectory is more along the lines of Jerick McKinnon and Darren Sproles, which means hands off Tariq Cohen.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, like you said, to your point, he's uses his agility. He makes cuts. That's what he does. And if you lose that explosion and that's what you relied on as a player, that's tough to come back from.
Yeah, and he doesn't have the first round draft grade pedigree
right.
that the 2 other guys that we're talking about here in Saquon and Rashad Penny have. But moving on to Rashad Penny, he's now 2 years removed from his injury. Makes it a little bit more difficult to pin down based on this data. But we have another guy who missed 2 seasons after his ACL injury in Jerick McKinnon. And he was a hot name last year. In certain circles, he was a guy that a lot of people were saying, oh, go out and get Jerick McKinnon. He could really be a running back 2 fill-in guy in the San Francisco offense, and look what happened.
It's another situation where he became a trendy name because he was dirt cheap. You could get him at the end of drafts, and yeah, people liked that situation. They liked that backfield, and again, they're leaning on years past production from what they have seen from McKinnon to make that judgment that, oh, he's worth a late-round flyer. As it turns out, you could have done pretty much anything else with that pick if you took him.
Pretty much. Now, Rashad Penny. I mentioned that Geo Bernard was a high second-round pick because they were only drafted 5 spots apart, Rashad Penny and Geo Bernard, in different draft years. But the draft pedigree, pretty similar.
Sure.
Geo Bernard hasn't done anything since his ACL tear. He's not been a guy outside of a guy you needed to fill in a role here and there when Joe Mixon was out. And even then, it's 50-50 as per whether or not he was really effective doing that.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
So to me, looking at this data, I don't think Rashad Penny's in the Jamal Charles AP mold.
We're off. We're off.
I mean?
Are we off the Penny train? We just hopped on it a couple weeks ago. Are we shutting that down now?
I am.
Okay. Here's my thing with Penny. I guess the Bernard comparison, and you kind of already mentioned it, is the Bengals have an established guy in Joe Mixon. So obviously Bernard kind of became the change of pace backup. Maybe they didn't envision that when they drafted him in the 2nd round, but a clearly better player ended up in that backfield. With all due respect to Geo Bernard, I've always liked Geo Bernard. But Mixon is a step above as far as talent. So that worked a little bit against Geo. And also to your point, while it hasn't been foolproof, he's been relatively effective here and there in spot starts, in spot opportunities. Right. Obviously, he's not, a slam dunk middle round guy where you hammer that in the 6th or 7th or 8th round every year because you know that he's going to be the second of a two-headed monster. No, that's not the case with Geo Bernard.
Yeah, he's not the Kareem Hunt to a Nick Chubb situation.
Exactly.
That is not
exactly. Happening. With Penny, I'm still willing to see how the Seahawks backfield shakes out. And if it seems like they are not going to go into the season with anything more than a veteran complementary piece, I still might buy, especially if I don't see Penny's ADP change all that much. If it goes up, then yeah, we might have to have a different conversation. But if it stays in that 10th, 11th round area that it is right now, and it is climbing ever since the news about Chris Carson, I'm still okay with that because you're talking about a double-digit round.
Especially in best balls, which is the distinction that you made in the last conversation we had that made me kind of turn around to your way of thinking because you were thinking primarily from the standpoint of best balls. So I'm still willing to throw a dart throw at Rashad Penny with this price.
He's worth it there.
As it stands right now.
Yeah. And because there's not clear competition right now, I'm still feeling okay about him. But yeah, I mean, if the Seahawks bring in a guy or two or re-sign Chris Carson, I think the script would change because I think that would ultimately tell a bigger story. Like, why did the Seahawks recommit to Chris Carson? What does that have to say about Rashad Penny? So I think that's a wait-and-see situation, but there's reason for a little bit more pessimism knowing the outlook following a significant injury like an ACL.
Now, the last guy we have to talk about
that's a big name.
Might be the type of guy that is a clear-cut outlier.
Yeah.
A la an AP or a Jamal Charles, and that's Saquon Barkley.
Yep.
He suffered his injury week 2, and by all accounts, he was already, doing insane leg exercises 5 weeks after.
Yeah, his rehab started pretty quickly because, Saquon's just a freak.
So I think he could be the next guy here. Another guy that I did not mention who technically should be in this data set is Dalvin Cook, because in his second season, I think he had like 300 something yards and then got an ACL tear.
It was his rookie year.
And
his rookie year, he suffered the season-ending injury. I think his second year, yeah, that's when he started piling up some injuries, but he would come back into games, and he didn't miss the season, but he was banged up. He lost any opportunity to have a durability tag slapped on him. Let's put it that way.
Right, but he's come back and been a top 3 or 4 running back in the league, and I think that Saquon's more of a physical freak than him. And I have no qualms about Saquon coming back and at least playing like a running back too.
Yeah, I mean, here's my one concern with Saquon. His body is huge, right?
Yeah.
His upper body is huge, and one of the things that's part of Saquon's reputation is his calves. His upper legs are huge.
You saw him in person once.
Oh yeah, I did. I saw him at a bar in LA, and I was like, I promise you, we locked eyes, and he gave me this look like, what the hell are you looking at? And I was like, I'm looking at you, Saquon Barkley. Holy shit. But yeah, he's huge, and I'm a little worried that no matter who you are, those ligaments are little. Those ligaments in your knee, in your joints, they're small. So you're asking them to support a significant amount of muscle mass and body weight. So I'm not a doctor. That's my favorite saying, regardless. But in this literal sense, it makes it.
Wait till you get your doctorate and just turn it on its head.
I should do that. Dr. Payne. Nobody would come see me. That would be my one concern in this situation. And this is nitty gritty, I understand, but is that ACL going to hold up, having to support a crazy wild body type like Saquon, even though I know he's insanely talented. I am not, with that said, ready to say don't take him in the top 5, because if I had the 5th pick and he was there, I think I would take him. But that would be my one concern, is he's so huge. Can his lower legs hold up and support the rest of him after this injury?
Well, I think one of the priorities in the draft and in the offseason for the Giants, and we're getting into the nitty-gritty here again, and I'm talking about the team and not necessarily the player. I think they would be trying to shore up their O-line.
No doubt.
And I think that they're going to be passing the ball to him a lot more next year.
And that could definitely help him.
Yeah.
You know, that he's not slamming into a pile on every single touch. That's why we like running back catches. Not just because they are more valuable for fantasy, but generally speaking, they're less of a physical impact. You may only have to handle 1 tackle instead of 6. So that would certainly help. That would ease the workload while not decreasing it, as far as I'm concerned. I do feel like I'm not at the point where I'm worried about Saquon yet, especially because Saquon is still pretty young. And especially, I mean, you want to talk about draft capital. Guy was drafted 2nd overall.
The dude just turned 24 on February 9th.
So the Giants are...
Yeah, I'm not worried about him at all,
Giants are going to continue to commit to Saquon. He is going to continue to be a focal point of their team, of their offense, what they want to do, and how they want to do it. He's still a top 5 pick. There's obviously a little bit of built-in risk, a little bit of a red flag with the injury. But if there's anybody who can overcome the ACL injury and go back to being an RB1, Saquon's a guy that I'm not ready to say I'm worried about him yet, or that I'm fading him. If anybody else wants to fade him, be my guest. And then in that situation, that guy's risk is your reward.
Yeah, this isn't a guy like in the rest of the group, and you mentioned it earlier, that whose ADP is going to reflect that he had a season-ending injury last year.
Mm-hmm.
This is a guy that it doesn't matter. He's going to be a top 5 running back off the board in the majority of smart leagues.
Yeah. Anybody who knows what they're doing, he will be a top 5 pick.
Right. So I don't think there's any real discussion left to be had there. So wrap up, Nick, you're drafting Courtland Sutton, you're not drafting Odell Beckham, right?
Probably. At this point, like, again, I understand your eyes get big, and I did take Odell and won best ball in the 7th round, but factoring in that he's approaching 30. He's closer to 30 than he is to 25, which is a big deal in the NFL. And with Sutton, he's younger, suffered the injury sooner, so the recovery is a little bit more ahead of schedule. And his role, I think, is a little bit more known right now, whereas Odell could be on the move and we don't know where he could end up, especially in an offseason where we're seeing so much quarterback turnover. Who knows who's going to be throwing the ball to Odell? And not that I feel super confident about Drew Lock as it pertains to Courtland Sutton, but Sutton is a younger piece who you know is Denver's wide receiver 1.
And you're hands off on Tariq Cohen.
I think you have to be. I hate to say it, but I think you have to be, given stature, role on the team, what he was as a player to be productive. He relied on his agility and his ability to make cuts. ACL impacts that.
And you have to take into account that they passed to David Montgomery towards the end of last season, and it worked out fine.
Yep.
He proved that he was not a Jordan Howard type of running back, and they were using Cordarrelle Patterson out there in pretty much the same role that they were using Tariq Cohen in.
Right.
So he's a replaceable piece. Rashad Penny. I feel like we've talked about him a lot.
We have talked about him a ton. I think I'm still in 4 now at his ADP. If it goes any higher and or the Seahawks bring in some competition, the fade Rashad Penny noise may start over here.
And we're drafting Saquon top 5.
Yeah,
Just went into that.
Yeah.
So
I had one concern. It's minor. He's a top 5 pick.
But just moving forward, keep some of these stats in mind. 43% of players who suffer ACL injuries never play another snap.
That's huge.
And you really have to be an elite player to come back and continue performing at the level that you were expected to be playing at prior to the injury.
Yeah. Injuries are hard to overcome. They're not just a physical toll on the player, it's mental as well. You have to be careful with players coming off of injury. Just because their stock falls doesn't necessarily automatically mean they're a value. So be careful. This is good work, John. It's good information to have. A value isn't a value necessarily just because somebody's ADP is 4 rounds lower than it was from the year before. Sometimes there's a very good reason for something like that happening.
Yeah, I think that's something that I wish I would have learned earlier, because I've been one of those guys in fantasy leagues that just, a wide receiver 1 in the 5th round, I'll take that.
Holy hell.
Smash the button, and then he never plays for me.
Right.
So yeah, what do you guys think? Do you guys think Saquon, Tariq Cohen, Rashad Penny, Odell Beckham, and Cortland Sutton should or should not be drafted highly or at all? Put your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you for listening. This is the Face Mask Podcast. I am John Alsace. Nick Payne is also here. Dr. Payne. I would go see that doctor.
0 patience for me.
Signing off, y'all. Wait, this is what I really wanted to talk about.
This is the hard-hitting thing.
Yeah, I mean, all right. Let's just get right into it. Marvel post-credit scene. We are debating favorite types of cereal.
Ooh, damn. This is a hot button issue.
Honestly, bro, I haven't had cereal in a real long time. So when thinking about my list, and I don't have it as a 1 through 5, it's just 5 ones that I like.
Sure.
I really had to think back to my childhood, because I haven't had a bowl of cereal in 5-6 years.
It's been a long time since I've had cereal, but there are no doubt some favorites. Some of them, I don't even know if I could eat some of them now. I might be like, this is disgusting, but I don't want to ruin that for myself, so I'm not going to eat them.
Yeah, I can think of a few where it's just where I did have them 5 or 6 years ago, and that was the reason why I stopped for the period that I have, and have no real desire to go back to that. I was like,
I'm just consuming straight sugar,
yeah.
And now I'm not a kid anymore. This is bad. But yeah, let's do it. Top 5 cereals.
I'm going to be mad adult and boring, bro.
I swear to God, if you
My
say
number
Cheerios.
1 cereal is Raisin Bran. Because I can still... I love raisins. All right?
Okay,
I love
fine,
raisins.
fine.
Raisins were my shit when I was a kid. You put that shit in cereal, cover it with... It's already covered with some sugar.
Yeah, that's true.
And as an adult, as a grown man, I feel like I can still eat Raisin Bran and not feel like a shitty person for the rest of the day.
You slice bananas in there too? You go all out?
Nah, bro. I sprinkle some grape nuts on that bitch.
Okay. All right. There you go.
Have it with my grapefruit, like my grandpa.
You are a grandpa. You drinking some warm milk with this too?
Shut up, bro.
Raisin Bran. I wasn't prepared for that one, but okay. All 5 of mine are
I love
sugar
Raisin
bombs.
Bran.
I'm just saying. Okay. I'm going to lead off with this has clear cut been my favorite since day one. It is the sugar bomb of sugar bombs. I'm pretty confident of all of the cereals. I could still eat this one. Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Yo, man. See, that was when I think about cereals from my childhood that I loved, that's number 1.
It's king. It is the elite cereal because it is sugar. The milk collects all the cinnamon, so it's like a delicious drink afterwards if you're not somebody who finishes the milk with the cereal. If you like to slurp the end of that bowl dry at the end, the milk is now like a cinnamon milk. Dude, it was the full package.
Oh, it's worse when you go back for seconds. It's worse when you go back for seconds and the milk that you have is now, you put more sugar into the sugar milk that you already have.
Oh, I was all hopped up for the entire day. There were sometimes I would skip the second bowl and it was just hands straight into the box. And everybody would be like, why is half the box gone? We bought this yesterday. Like, well, I can't help. It's delicious.
I remember my cousins from Buffalo, New York. They would always, whenever we went to visit them, they would have like regular dinner and a regular dessert. But in between dinner and dessert, not a day went by where they didn't have a bowl of cereal.
They had breakfast too.
So I remember fucking going to visit them and being so excited because it was the one time when my mom would let me have Cinnamon Toast Crunch after dinner, and I felt like such a baller. And yeah,
that's a good dessert. I would accept that for dessert.
Yeah, but it wasn't the dessert. It was just the post-dinner cereal. They had dessert after that.
It was the pre-dessert dessert.
It was not healthy.
Yeah, but it was delicious.
Yeah, as a kid, I loved it. I loved it.
What else you got?
Cinnamon Life, bro.
I guess that's pretty similar. I don't know how...
It is pretty similar. It's not quite as, like, kid-friendly.
Yeah.
Again, these are cereals that I feel like I could eat now and not feel shitty about myself for the rest of the day.
You an old head.
I am. But I liked Cinnamon Life when I was a kid, too, bro.
I mean, I remember having it. I remember thinking this is a cheap knockoff of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and I'm not going to like this as good. But,
100%.
You know, it's flavorful. It's obviously not as much of a sugar bomb, so I see it. It's not my top 5. I'll say that. Again, my top 5 are sugar bombs.
All right, is Captain Crunch in your list?
No, but it should be.
Yo, I feel like Captain Crunch would like ruin the roof of my mouth. Did you ever have that?
You know the one, I think the one that would ruin my mouth would be those Oreo O's.
Oh, yo, I never had that shit.
Oh, that's the one cereal where if I ate that now, I think it would kill me. But as a kid, I loved it because it was an Oreo in cereal. As a kid, it's like I'm all jacked up.
They had that though. They had those Reese's Pieces cereals.
Oh shit,
and,
those
like,
were good too.
The Rice Krispie Treat cereal and like
those got soggy fast. The Rice Krispie Johns got soggy real fast, and you needed to eat them like it was wildfire. It spread to sogginess so fast. You had to gobble that stuff down. I've never seen another cereal get so soggy so fast. They're not bad, but eat it quick. It's like a hot wing. Eat it quick.
Well, I mean, I'd say I'll take that into account moving forward, but I don't plan on ever having that cereal again.
It's fair enough.
But that's, I guess, a good piece of information to have. Thank you.
Soggy cereal is gross. Avoid it.
Yo, it is.
But I will say I think Oreo O's makes my top 5. I think it's 5th for me, but just because I love chocolate so much, and just Oreos in general are just a phenomenal cookie. You turn it into a cereal. As a 7-year-old, you're in your happy place.
Yeah, you can't really mess with that.
Right.
All right, I got one that I feel like you're not going to, frown at.
I won't laugh at? All right.
No. French Toast Crunch.
Yeah, that one crossed my mind.
Because it was like a limited edition, you only had it for 6 months cereal, and then you never saw it again.
Right, it was like, there's only 200 boxes of these for the year. Get yours now.
Oh, bro. I remember
Mad dash
2 boxes. I had 2 boxes of that. My sister stole one, but I was so excited when I got to try that, and it didn't let me down because I love French toast.
Yeah, it was good. It's, I feel like it was
You could still get it now.
Oh, yeah.
I think that was the last cereal I did have. And it wasn't terrible. I didn't feel like shitty about myself.
Nah.
But
it's a combination, I feel like, it's like the waffle crisp cereal, but also there's like a Cinnamon Toast Crunch flavor in there. It's like a hybrid type of thing.
Yeah, that was if I always wished that cereal had a longer life. You know what I mean? It did come back, and you can still get it. They still make it, but I saw it everywhere for 6 months and then never saw it again.
It's like, let's find these incredibly rare boxes of cereals. Gotta catch them all. I'm gonna go 2 classics before I end with what I think is actually my second highest. But
okay,
2 classics, sugar bombs. Love them both. Could never go wrong. Frosted Flakes, Fruit Loops. Toucan Sam and
those
Tony
are
the
not
Tiger
what I
were
thought.
my
Those are not what I thought
boys.
you were gonna go to.
No.
And much respect.
They were so. Frosted Flakes is the OG, straight out the box, like handfuls of flakes. Just like I could destroy a box in one day as a kid. It was bad. Loved Frosted Flakes. Sometimes they would get a little weirdly colored. You would find one. I would always find like one. I was like, why is that flake brown? I don't know if I'm the only one.
Yo, it's because they made all those flakes in the same thing, and I'm sure you got like one whole grain flake.
Right.
That got sugar coated and found its way into your box.
Yeah. Well, it always looked kind of weird, and I would always make a point to be like, let me spoon this out and throw that in the sink, and then continue on with the rest of my cereal. Because I was picky
so you're
like
a purist.
that.
Okay.
Yes, I wanted pure Frosted Flakes, not some mangled looking thing that looked like it belonged at the end of a potato chip bag. I was not a fan of that. That was awesome. Fruit Loops, super simple. A little disappointing that the different colors didn't have different tastes, but it's okay. They were delicious. They also made the milk tasty and colorful. Can't go wrong.
Fruit Loops over Fruity Pebbles.
Yeah. Yes. No doubt.
100%.
No doubt.
100%.
All right. We in lockstep there. We're in too much
Yeah,
agreement
we're
now.
not butting heads as much as we did during the ice cream one. I feel like
Ice cream was war.
we're coming at this. Yeah, yo, I'm still ready to fight you.
We can fight. We'll record that one, Nick.
Boom. All right, I got two more.
Two more?
I ate a lot of apple cinnamon Cheerios when I was a kid.
Those shits were so good. Oh my God. See, this is the problem with cereal. They're all good. But anyway.
That and the Honey Nut Cheerios. I had to pick one though. So I picked apple cinnamon because that was more my shit because I love apple cinnamon. I love cinnamon
that's
things.
sweet.
If you haven't noticed.
Yeah, cinnamon is a
Cinnamon
theme
life.
for you.
I love cinnamon. Cinnamon, apple cinnamon, whatever.
Cinnamon ice
But
cream.
yeah, apple cinnamon Cheerios. Yes.
That was a jam. Yeah, I do like Honey Nut Cheerios. I do like apple cinnamon Cheerios. I feel like I haven't seen apple cinnamon Cheerios for so long. They used to do frosted Cheerios. I don't know if they still do those.
That was after I moved out of the States.
They were okay. They were definitely a tier below Honey Nut and apple cinnamon. But yeah, on any given day, I could have one of those too. They were really good. For my list, I'm gonna bring it home. This cereal is elite, sugariest of sugar, maybe outside of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, but that goddamn leprechaun in the commercial.
Yo!
They're after me, Lucky Charms. I was like, I'm going to go find the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow because that's what it's all about.
Great marketing for kids.
Oh.
It was great marketing for kids.
Oh, the amount of money that my parents had to spend on Lucky Charms because I was like, Mom, I need to be just like a leprechaun.
Oh, and with that shit, I would have my bowl of Lucky Charms, and I only got it when I went to visit my grandma because she was the only one who would buy it for us. But
you visited your family. How was it? We ate cereal and it was the best.
I feel like all of my vacations revolved around cereal and my need of cereal that I never got as a child. But whatever.
Could be worse. Anyway, Lucky Charms, elite.
Lucky Charms. But did you like eat all the non-marshmallow pieces and then eat all the marshmallow pieces at once at the end?
I would do multiple different things. I would do that. Yeah, I would eat sometimes just the marshmallows, and I would, I'd be like, just discard the other pieces. But and then there, a lot of times I like to just I would mix and match because the whole grain or whatever pieces are obviously a decent balance. But the marshmallows were great. They never got too soggy. First of all, they were probably too.
They like maintained a weird crunch.
They were also too good to leave in the bowl for too long. That was the other thing.
That too.
But yeah, no, they maintained their buoyancy, I guess is the best compliment I could give to the marshmallows. They never got too soggy. They were still good to eat if you were taking your time with the bowl of cereal for whatever crazy reason. Elite.
The milk that cereal left over too wasn't terrible.
It's pretty good. It had like a strawberry-ish flavor as far as milk goes, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Obviously the whole grain part of the cereal is kind of grandpa-y, but the marshmallows made that cereal cream of the crop.
Yeah. Yeah, the marshmallows made up for it. Honestly, I kind of blanked out that it was whole grain.
I don't even know
Shits.
if they are.
I don't even know what they were.
Just little rabbit food nuggets.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
But we ate them.
Yes.
They kept things in
with
balance.
gusto. Oh, shit. Yeah, man.
I think you have one more.
So this is like a pop-up. Or the toss-up, not a pop-up.
Okay.
I said pop-up because it could go pops.
Oh, but you can't stop.
Nah, bro.
No? I thought you were going to do Smack'ems.
No, the cereal pops.
Corn Pops.
Yes.
Corn Pops. Yeah. Those fluffy fucks.
Better this with the second bowl. Just because the milk got a little sugar.
They get a little.
You never got like overpowered with the sugar in the milk.
They get a little soggy. You got to eat them fast. That was the one thing with Corn Pops. They got a little soggy quickly, but yeah, if you could plow through a bowl of those guys, yeah, they're good. They're fluffy. They feel light. They're not as heavy. I could have 3-4 bowls of these.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they didn't like make your mouth feel weird afterwards. I feel like Captain Crunch and the Crunch Berries and all that shit, I liked them while I was eating them. And then like the roof of my mouth was just like, why did you tear me to shreds with this cereal? So
that's weird.
Whatever. So it was either Pops or Cocoa Puffs. Cocoa Puffs, it's the only chocolate cereal that I could ever get behind.
That's it? No Cocoa Pebbles?
Nope.
Okay.
I was off of the whole Pebble game.
I
didn't have Fruity Pebbles. I didn't have Cocoa Pebbles.
You just hated the Flintstones.
Sure.
Fred is somewhere crying.
Whatever.
No.
Jetsons over Flintstones, whatever.
He'll get over it. Okay. That's a separate conversation.
Next time?
Cartoons?
Whatever. Yeah. Cocoa Puffs, bro.
Cocoa Puffs. Anyway, what are the listeners thinking about the cereal, huh?
I was going to throw a wrench in there and be like, oatmeal, but no.
You can keep that for yourself.
I know. I'm like, with these like extra segments, you're going to understand that my takes for shit that I like, usually kind of contrarian.
I'll be sure to challenge them.
Oh, yeah. I would hope so.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Anytime I throw out like pear ice cream, I'm hoping that you throw a pear at me or something.
I'm going to punch you through the computer screen.
Oh, that's just me.
We're trying to keep it pretty civil here. I do what I can, but sometimes things cross the line. Pear ice cream.
All right, well that wraps it up for real. Thanks for listening.
We went on a tangent about cereal.
We'll catch you guys next pod. Take it easy, you guys.
Drop those comments about cereal.
Boom.